Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. I'm not joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey, for today's show, but we got a great show to get into. Week 8 is in the books, officially. We're about to cross the halfway point of the NFL season this upcoming week. A lot to talk about, a lot that happened in Week 8. Glad you could be here on this Tuesday evening. Glad to have you in on the show. A lot to talk about, like I said. A lot of crazy games, a lot of nonsense. Again, some games need a little bit of context. Some plays need a little bit of context. Ultimately, though, it was a great week. Great week. We had another winning week in the Harvey hot hand. Love to see that, of course. But let's jump into the first topic of today's show, which is the continuous lack of respect for the Indianapolis Colts, which is the first topic of today's show, because they did beat a team they should have crushed, which they did in the Tennessee Titans. But again, I'm seeing, well, they're not beating good teams, and you can't be trusted, and if you put them up against the Buffalo Bills or any of these other really great teams, how will they fare? Well, currently, the way I see in the eye test, I've watched every single Indianapolis Colts game this season, and I am thoroughly impressed, and I continuously be impressed by the level of performance that Daniel Jones, as well as Jonathan Taylor, and overall this offense, the level of just pure effectiveness and efficiency that they bring every single week. And this week was no different. Jonathan Taylor, another tremendous game. He had 153 rushing yards, along with three total touchdowns, which was obviously impressive. He has basically 100 more rushing yards than the next highest running back, which I believe is James Cook. Daniel Jones has been incredible this season. He deserves shorter odds in the MVP than he does, but I can understand why. Saying Daniel Jones MVP, it doesn't exactly sound right, but based on his performance alone, you have to put him there. And I do think there'll be opportunities for the Indianapolis Colts to prove why they deserve at least a higher Super Bowl odds. And Daniel Jones needs a better case for MVP. But in this game, it was absolutely incredible. And so far this season, I mean, it's the redemption story of the year, the Daniel Jones one is. But ultimately, this game was insane, because this offense now has become literally unstoppable. I mean, you look at some of the still shots in the All-22. I mean, the offensive line is Moses, essentially, parting the running lanes wider than the Red Sea. I mean, Jonathan Taylor has, light years of room to run. 850 rushing yards, over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. He has 14 total touchdowns. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is a top-tier running back, obviously. He had a bit of a down year since the crazy years. He's had, some ebbs and flows, but I think he's fully back. I mean, Tyler Warren, we were praising Brock Bowers on his dominant rookie performance last year. I think right now Tyler Warren, effectiveness-wise, is actually outplaying him. And also, I might add that this offense operates with incredible efficiency. The number one in yards per play. Jonathan Taylor, and this is what helps it out. Jonathan Taylor is he has the most rushing yards per attempt on first down amongst starting running backs, and then followed up with Daniel Jones has the best passer rating on third down, as well as most yards per play on third down passing. So this offense just keeps the sticks moving. They don't stop. I mean, they literally, since the stat has been recorded, it started getting recorded in 1998, drives ending in a score. The Colts right now at a little over 60%. That margin is the biggest. It's the highest percentage of drive percentage, drives ending in a score in NFL history. I mean, what they're doing, they also have the most points per drive in NFL history, more than the 2018 Chiefs, or more than the 2010, 2016, 2007 Patriots, more than the greatest show on turf. You name it, they have the most points per drive in NFL history currently. So, I mean, this team, is absolutely incredible. Daniel Jones looked really bad on the Giants, and I pointed it out. That was my whole thing for months and months and years on how bad Daniel Jones looked. But then you go to a system that's a little bit more competent. You go over to a Shane Steichen offense, and we saw what Shane Steichen did with Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts. I never really thought he was the problem. He had a quarterback that couldn't complete passes at a very high level, under 50%. Meanwhile, Daniel Jones has been absolutely instrumental for this offense and working at it at an incredibly high rate. Even when he's pressured, which this offensive line deserves a lot of the MVP praise as well. Obviously, you can't give an MVP award to an entire offensive line, but they're a large part of why Daniel Jones and ultimately this offense has been incredibly successful. But even when Daniel Jones gets pressured, he has a QBR, scale of 0 to 100, of 91.8, highest ever since the QBR became a stat back in 2006. And currently is also number 1 in passer rating while under pressure. I mean, what he has done, nobody saw this coming. I mean, was I high on him when he came over to the Colts and said, well, this kind of looks like the 2022 roster where you have an okay offensive line? In the case of this year, the Colts offensive line has been absolutely insane. But a lot of similarities between the Giants team that won a playoff game and then this team with the Colts. A very good running game, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, a good enough offensive line, Colts, Giants, a defense that is opportunistic and is pretty good. 2022 Giants wasn't too bad, and this year's Colts team, I hate the passing defense ultimately, but right now they're 6th in scoring defense. They're a top 10 rushing defense team. They are 29th against the pass, which again, I don't love, and 24th in total defense. So maybe in the trade deadline, go out and get another pass rusher or get a defensive back. But there were a lot of similarities here. And here's the big one. I just think that this is a perfect fit. I think Daniel Jones, and definitely Daniel Jones, and maybe some Mac Jones, maybe not on the same level, but Daniel Jones will get a massive long-term deal with the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, this just works. He fits here beautifully. And really, I talked about this, several weeks ago, about a month and a half ago. This team should be undefeated because there was no reason why A.D. Mitchell had to fumble the ball out of the back of the end zone and also have a bad holding call on a 53-yard rushing touchdown by Jonathan Taylor. They should have beaten the Rams. And actually, that is the lowest EPA, expected points on offense this season, but they still should have won. They should be 8-0. And we have these pundits on these sports shows saying, well, they go up against the Chiefs, and when they go up against the Bills, I don't exactly trust them. Why? Why? Mahomes will be sitting on the sidelines. If I'm Shane Steichen and I go up against the Chiefs, which they do in Week 12 coming off a bye, I'm looking at it and saying, and by the way, in Arrowhead, if I win the toss, I'm taking the ball because I want to start off, on top. I want to start up 7-0. And by the way, their points per drive is over 3. So, based on the average, you're getting at least a field goal. You're taking the lead. It's not going to be 0-0. So if I'm Shane Steichen, I'm taking the ball. And I'm just having Mahomes sit on the sideline and kind of do what the Texans did against the 49ers where they take off 9 minutes off the clock. So Mahomes is sitting there and, they have one drive and ultimately end of the first quarter. Keep the ball moving, keep the chains moving. And I just think ultimately that's what's going to propel this Colts team to be a legitimate threat because they should be. You look at the defense and the passing defense is bad and whatnot, but they are 5th in takeaways, which is incredible. But this offense is the reason why this team is going to go far. I think that there is a shot, a legitimate shot, that they will win at least one playoff game, and I could really say that we could see the Colts in the AFC Championship game. Because right now, they haven't really been stopped at all. They have, 3 30-plus point games? They have 2 40-plus point games? This offense is electric. Absolutely electric. And then you go up against the Chargers and you blow them out of the water. You had a little bit of a weird circumstance with Jacoby Brissett where he could have won but didn't. But here's what I find very fascinating. It's like, well, you won on a game-winning field goal against the Denver Broncos. That's only because, to me, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you did it in week 2, but what if it was the AFC Championship game and that's when you did it? Well, a win's a win, in my opinion. You still won. You had over 473 total yards. I mean, that matters to me. I don't know I don't really care how you win. You won. So if that is circumstantial. You had to win on a game-winning field goal after a penalty. I mean, to me, it doesn't matter. You still won. I don't care if it's week 2. I don't care if it's the Super Bowl. A win's a win in my book. And Daniel Jones has been incredible. Michael Pittman's on pace for 13 touchdowns. I've always said this. My favorite player coming out of that draft. Lammon's had a pick, 4 tackles. He also had a pass breakup. Bortolini had 0 sacks on 33 pass block snaps. Nick Cross, he has been incredible so far this season. I mean, ultimately, this Colts team, will it have hiccups? Will it have bumps? Yes. But in reality, you go down the schedule at Steelers. Their pass defense is really struggling as of late. You go the Atlanta Falcons, who just couldn't do anything this prior week. At KC is really, I'm looking at it, the only real challenge they have all season. The Texans, the Jaguars, the Seahawks, the Niners, the Jaguars, the Texans. I mean, you take a look at it. How many bumps and bruises will this Colts team have? And obviously, that's a double-edged sword because you could be like, well, they're not battle-tested for the playoffs when they play the Buffalo Bills or when they play the Patriots or whoever they will play in the playoffs. I look at it this way. You keep riding high, you keep dominating, you keep put up 30-plus point games and 40-plus point games, teams will fear you. And again, it's with Daniel Jones at starting quarterback. I think that's what's crazy about it. Daniel Jones has been, and I did this on my top 10 list, he has been at least the 5th best quarterback. And I think really, with Dak having such a dud, that drops. Daniel Jones may move into the top 3. Now, obviously, once Lamar gets, situated, coming back from injury, he would make the list, and I don't think he deserves to be on any list recently, just because he's been banged up for so long. But I think ultimately, you take a look at it, nobody has made a decent argument on why Daniel Jones shouldn't be at least a top 5 quarterback. I could argue top 3. Way back when, after week 2 or 3, I said he's the 2nd best quarterback in the NFL, maybe number 1. And people were like, well, Daniel Jones, blah. To me, it didn't matter. I mean, just look at the data, look at the facts. There's no statistical proof or even on the eye test on why Daniel Jones isn't a top-tier quarterback in the NFL right now. There's nothing. You could be, well, strength of schedule. Drake May has had the easiest schedule in the NFL. He's an MVP candidate. He's been playing out of his mind, and we give him the respect for that. And I think we need to do that as well when it comes to the Indianapolis Colts and Daniel Jones. Because, the teams you should be blowing out, you are. The teams you're doing well against, you should be. And you are. And even the teams that we really doubted you on against the Los Angeles Rams, contextually, you should still be undefeated. So, I've been incredibly impressed. Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones have been a match made in heaven. This offensive line has been incredible. Jonathan Taylor has been absolutely phenomenal all year. The defense has had its moments. I want to see them a little bit better on the pass defense. Again, Jacoby Brissett caused a lot of trouble for you. But ultimately, this is the best team in the NFL. I don't care what people think. Oh, the Kansas City Chiefs, yeah, they're on a winning streak now. Mahomes threw 2 picks. Marcus Mariota airmailed a 4th down pass, and they were driving right down the field, and a ball knocked over Deebo Samuel's face mask and ended up in a Chiefs interception on the first drive of the game, where they were driving right down the field to potentially score a touchdown to go up 7-0. Again, context. Chiefs blew them out. It was tied at halftime. I mean, to be honest, the Giants' defense, if Russell Wilson was a little bit better in that game, the Giants' defense gave him fit. Do I fear the Chiefs? Yeah, because they have Patrick Mahomes. They're on a hot streak right now. Maybe it's a hot take. Maybe people will disagree, but this Colts team will cause the Chiefs some serious issues in 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now? 3 games from now? I mean, they're going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who right now are absolutely struggling in the passing in the pass defense game. What do you want me to do? They have allowed 300-plus passing yards in 3 of the last 4 games. Daniel Jones may put up a 300-yard game and a few touchdowns, along with Jonathan Taylor having like 99 yards and a touchdown or 2. I mean, this is what the offense is now. They're 3-point favorites. I jumped on that. Some people have them at 3.5. I mean, that's unfortunate. That one of my Harvey hot hand picks is Colts -3 at Steelers. We just saw the Steelers do nothing offensively. Their defense got cooked by Jordan Love late in the game. They couldn't do anything. Daniel Jones in this offense is on a hot streak. Here's the thing. I ripped on him so many years doing this show. We're moving on 4 years in a couple months from now. I've ripped on Daniel Jones all but this year, where I actually thought he had I had faith in him. Did I expect, MVP level of performance? No, I thought he'd be efficient. I thought I'd see an upgraded version of 2022. And that is the case, just, times 5. But yeah, incredible all around. The offense was instrumental. The Shane Steichen, tremendous head coach. I never thought it was Shane Steichen because I saw what he did with Justin Herbert and I saw what he did with Jalen Hurts. He had a quarterback that couldn't complete a pass. And what I said my take was on Anthony Richardson is Shane Steichen could drop the most perfect play possible, the one-play touchdown, the best play of all time. Anthony Richardson just wouldn't get it to the guy. I mean, think about it too. Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell when he's not, in the doghouse. Michael Pittman. They have dudes. They have a lot of guys. Tyler Warren, tight end. Mo Alley Cox has had a couple great catches. Amir Abdullah's had a couple great runs. Jonathan Taylor is an MVP candidate. They have a lot of guys offensively. This is an offensive juggernaut. And I think teams need to give him the respect. It's Daniel Jones. I know, it's weird. It's crazy. But the facts are the facts. Daniel Jones is playing at a top-tier level, and this offense is number 1 in the NFL. It's number 1 in NFL history on drives ending in a score. I mean, It is what it is. I mean, that's just the facts. That's just the data. Speaking about great offenses, though, a team that I kind of picked against, I knew they would win, but I thought they'd cover at least, or rather, they wouldn't cover. That's the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix, because what the hell was that game? I mean, Bo Nix threw one bad pick. That was really his only horrible pass of the day, and that was on the opening drive. And again, I don't know what to think about this game and this team because they played the Dallas Cowboys, who made Caleb Williams look like an all-pro, who really, the defense is the worst in the NFL. And it's really not even close. Dak Prescott had a bad game, no touchdowns, 2 picks. And this is crazy because it's literally, I uploaded the video. We did the show on Friday. I uploaded that video on Saturday, I believe, of my top 10 quarterback list. And of course, Dak had to do had to drop a big deuce, the following day, less than 24 hours later. But ultimately, I just think that this was more about really the Dallas Cowboys just being a terrible defense. What I do think, though, it did show glimpses of what the Denver Broncos could be when they have their moments, when they have their opportunities. I mean, having Bo Nix throw 4 touchdowns and only 1 pick, that was a terrible throw. I mean, think about this. Only Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield have more 4+ touchdown games since 2024. Bo Nix has 3. Lamar has 5. Baker has 4. And we have to realize that Sean Payton was very high on Bo Nix. I think this was the first game, and maybe it is just because of the terrible defense the Cowboys have, but I felt like there were a lot more intermediate throws. Fewer dinks and dunks. Fewer, screen passes that went nowhere. A lot more, efficiency with the football. I mean, Troy Franklin, that connection he has with Bo Nix is absolutely incredible. He had 6 catches, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. Pat Bryant got his first NFL touchdown, which is a 24-yard touchdown. RJ Harvey had a great game. I mean, this offense looks really, really good. But again, I feel like it's kind of behind a smokescreen. It's a mirage because you played against the Dallas Cowboys defense, which is so bad. I mean, then you have Jerry Jones, entering the year. Oh, we could be a playoff team. We'll be really successful. And now he's like, we got to find a defensive back. He said, it won't be a pass rusher. Meanwhile, your pass rush is the worst since Micah Parsons wasn't there before Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is really the best pass rusher that you've ever had in recent history. And that's just the facts, because look at what your defense is without him and what it was with him. I mean, it is night and day. You were like a top 5, top 10 defense. Now you're the worst defense in the NFL. So again, I think that there's a lot to take from this game, and there's also not a lot to take from this game, because you could look at the Denver Broncos and say, really great defensive performance. Riley Moss played really well. The defense stepped up when Pat Surtain went down. Nick Bonito, Defensive Player of the Year, absolutely. Riley Moss had 3 pass breakups in this game. The offense, R.J. Harvey had, J.K. Dobbins, 111 yards, 7.4 yards a carry. R.J. Harvey had 3 total touchdowns. Troy Franklin had basically 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nix wasn't sacked. This is his 3rd sackless game. And then I could also look at it and be like, well, they played a terrible team. They played a horrible defense. So I'll give credit where credit's due. The Denver Broncos did their job. They did what they were supposed to do. Go in, or rather have the Dallas come over to Mile High and absolutely obliterate them. And the defense did its job. The defense has been absolutely incredible. Nick Bonito has 8 sacks and 7 TFLs so far this season. They're the first team ever with 35+ sacks and 10 or fewer sacks allowed in 8 games. So this team is on a very high streak right now. They've been absolutely incredible as of late. Again, I love the 33-point comeback against the Giants. Don't love it for the Harvey hot end. I had them covering that -7. They only won by 1 that week. But if a team keeps playing like this and it's not against the Dallas Cowboys defense, then this is 100% is a very deep playoff team. Even with Bo Nix. Even with the fact that his deep ball is not great, even though Sean Payton seems to really condense the playbook early in the game and sometimes even late in the game when it's a close game where they're just dinking and dunking in 3rd and 7s. They're handing it off to their fullback / 3rd string tight end. It's like, what the hell are you doing? If they play like this, if the defense keeps playing like this, 100% this team could definitely win the AFC West. And I think you're going up against the Chiefs, and unfortunately, Pat Surtain, he's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. He won't be at that game, but this defense really stepped up big when Pat Surtain went down, was around the second quarter, or they missed the second half. So, I mean, they play the Chiefs in 3 weeks, and then they're at their bye. My concern is, are they looking too far ahead at their bye? Because they do have one of the later byes. It's a Week 12 bye. I think you go in. It's at home. You're on a 2-game stretch. The Raiders at home and then the Chiefs at home. You play the Texans this upcoming week in Houston. Your favorites there, rightfully so. I'll probably pick you, not for the Harvey hot hand, but just ultimately just pick you for the win-loss. I think that there's an opportunity because I don't trust the Chargers with the amount of injuries that they have. The Chiefs, they look great. They looked really, really good in the second half. But there's a lot of slow starts. I mean, we've seen a lot of teams get close to beating the Chiefs in like a half or in like 3 quarters, and then they just fall apart. I don't know if Denver's that team. I think they could really, if it's a 7-7 half, this is going to be a 1-score game, very tight-knit, come down to maybe the last drive or whoever has the ball last. And I think that if it's the Denver Broncos, I think they can go up against the Chiefs and definitely beat them. I don't know if they'll sweep them. I think that's a bit much. But you play the Chiefs, week 11. I think there's an opportunity that they come into Mile High and you beat them. I think that this defense will do something to Mahomes because the Commanders' defense picked off Mahomes twice. Where they, contextual interception, sure. Just like Marcus Mariota's first pick came off of Debo's face mask. But, Troy Franklin, the connection with him and Bo Nix has been great. Evan Ingram has been a great acquisition for him. RJ Harvey has been in a very slow start to the beginning of the year. Had a couple friends who had him on fantasy. I told him, maybe RJ Harvey's a good pick. Early in the year, not a great choice by me. Now he dropped, 30 points this week, so now it's a great pick. But, yeah, this defense could definitely do something to Mahomes. I don't know, maybe not pass rush. Maybe not. But I think you have Nick Bonito. He could absolutely wreak havoc. I don't think they'll need to blitz Mahomes and the Chiefs, but that's really the ultimate goal. It's basically what the Knicks did with the Celtics. They built a team to beat the Celtics, not necessarily to win the finals. And they did exactly that. Then you go up against the Pacers, and then you lose. So, I don't know. I'm not saying that this team was built specifically to beat the Chiefs, because I think that was more what the Bills were trying to do, and they've done it in the regular season, and that game's actually being played this week, Bills-Chiefs. But I think that this team all around is built so well. Because you have 2, maybe 3 really good running backs, J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. I think they're a really, really nice 1-2 punch combo. You have threats all over. You have Cortland Sutton. You have Troy Franklin. You have Mims. You have Evan Ingram. You have some dudes who can make some big-time plays. The offensive line is, number 1 or number 2 in the NFL. 3 sackless games for Bo Nix so far this season. If Bo could just, use his legs early in the game and then lean on the play action midway and then late in the game, I think that this offense could really, really perk up. They're right now, they are the 3rd best rushing team, the 14th best passing team, 9th total offense in yards, and then 10th best scoring team. This is a top 5 defense through and through, though. And I think if you just keep that up, you keep the chains moving, you keep the offense out there, and then your defense just wreaks havoc. You play Houston, fewest points allowed in the NFL. What will happen there? In Houston, it'll be interesting. I will take the Broncos, but I think ultimately, this team looks really, really good on both sides of the ball. We just saw what they did against the Giants. We could say defensive breakdown. Their last 3 scoring drives came all under a minute time of possession. That's an incredibly effective offense. And it's in crunch time. Bo Nix is not fazed by it at all. 3 scoring drives, you need to score, otherwise the game is essentially over, and they did that every single time and all under a minute. So this team is very, very good. Again, this game I'm not exactly loving because it is against the Dallas Cowboys, who couldn't stop anybody. I just think ultimately you look at it, I'll give credit where credit's due. The Broncos did their job. They obliterated the worst defense in the NFL. And the offense stepped up big. The defense did its job, forced Dak Prescott into 2 interceptions, especially on the opening drive that the Cowboys had after the interception at about midfield. They go all the way down, and on the goal line, you have a great goal line stand. Stop them right there. Then they have to kick a field goal. That's what great defenses do. In crunch time, you have to get it done. When in the red zone, can you turn touchdowns into field goals? That's what great teams do, and that's what the Broncos did this past week against the Dallas Cowboys. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, people are hating on Mac Jones. I'm sorry, going against a great pass rush when you have a bad offensive line, I don't think that's on Mac Jones whatsoever, especially on that opening drive the Texans had. We'll talk about that as well as the Vikings. Ooh, Carson Wentz out for the year. However, is J.J. McCarthy a savior? He shouldn't be, nor will he be. I'll talk about that. Also, Myles Garrett is really being pissy after that big-time loss to the New England Patriots. I'll talk about all of that right after this break.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Wow, okay, we got some breaking news, and just on the topic I was about to speak about, so it's great timing. It actually fits in beautifully with the subject of today's show, so I'll bring it up. I'll introduce the topic here. The 49ers were not great. They got absolutely cooked by the Houston Texans. I mean, the opening drive was, 16 plays, went all the way down the field, and the opening drive for the 49ers goes absolutely nowhere. But breaking news, Keion White to the 49ers. Patriots send Keion White over. The details are a 6th and the 7th with the Pats getting a 6th, and the 49ers a 7th. It's a pick swap, basically, for Keion White. Wow. That is actually a very, very good pickup by the San Francisco 49ers. Keion White was supposedly going to be the replacement of Matt Judon. Didn't quite live up to it, but I still think his effectiveness on the field, I mean, he's made some big-time plays, and this season he really hasn't done that much whatsoever. But, in 2024, he had 5 sacks, a couple pressures, he had 5 passes defended, and 2 forced fumbles. The 49ers are getting a dude. Especially because Michael Williams has not really lived up to where he was drafted whatsoever. So, let's get into the game, though. Because Mac Jones, he didn't play well, but he was going up against the Houston Texans, and ultimately the 49ers didn't play great. They got basically no rush on C.J. Stroud, which makes sense for this move on why the 49ers decided to trade for a pass rusher, because really they got nobody. Nick Bosa was out for the season. Fred Warner, he's done for the year. Bryce Huff was out for this game. They really had nobody. You had to rely on the young guys, the rookies, and really they didn't step up very big. They lacked the pass rush. They were okay against the run. They weren't that great. They were, 4.1 yards per attempt, I think the Texans had in this week. But ultimately, I think this falls on the weird offensive scheme and also the fact that the defense just couldn't get off the field. I mean, you had several, 10-plus play drives. I think they had 5 double-digit play drives the Houston Texans offense did. So the defense really couldn't stop anybody, and especially on third down, they were just moving the ball down the field. But I think ultimately, this does fall a little bit on what the hell was Kyle Shanahan doing on some of the offensive play calls, because it was so weird. That first drive that the 49ers had, the first play, illegal formation, move the sticks back 5 yards. 1st and 15. Then you have another penalty. This time it was on the defense, so you move back up 5 yards. The third play of the drive, it was a face mask after Mac Jones. Mac Jones scrambled. He scrambled for 13 yards, and guess what? It's a 15-yard penalty. You ultimately punted because you couldn't move the ball downfield. You were on 3rd and 7. That was the best you got so far on that drive. But ultimately, the 49ers couldn't run the ball. And I think that this game does not fall more so on Mac Jones as much it is what the Houston Texans did. I think that's that's really the moral of the story here. I think that this wasn't a game of just, Mac Jones made a terrible mistake. He had one bad interception. It was an underthrow, so be it. I think that this game was more so what the Texans did rather than what the 49ers didn't do, because they tried running the ball and then just stopped running. CMC had 8 carries. Mac Jones was a more effective runner than CMC was. And really, Mac Jones made some great throws, some big-time throws. I mean, he was throwing into triple coverage just to make a play because the offense wasn't moving at all. The touchdown to George Kittle was equally a crazy throw because he was throwing into quadruple coverage. It was a great catch, but also it was on the money. A couple of Mac Jones also placement on his throws were great. There was one to George Kittle where he kind of threw it into coverage, but he threw it on the back shoulder. So George Kittle had to drop down and slide. Otherwise, it would have been a hospital ball. He could have gotten hurt again, but I think that Mac didn't play great. But again, for me, it's expectations. Because after After that first year with the Patriots, it was like, okay, we were 10-7. What are we going to do next? And then the coaching system failed him completely. You let Josh McDaniels go. The offense fell apart, and Mac Jones got worse pretty rapidly. Then he had the crying picture he has of him with his high ankle sprain. That'll live in people's memories forever. But ultimately, I think that, and going to the Jaguars, he wasn't that great whatsoever. He signs a 2-year deal with the team that wanted to draft him, with the head coach that wanted him in Kyle Shanahan. And really, he's been great. We could take a look at it and be like, oh, well, he doesn't move a lot. To me, that, okay, great. There's a number of pocket passers still in the NFL that don't move great. Again, he was a more effective runner than CMC in this game. I don't know what you want. I just think ultimately the Texans did a great job. But Kyle Shanahan, on some of these, one of the early plays, had a center go out and block Will Anderson. That was just a weird play, and Mac Jones got pressured and had to throw a deep ball. It was a little overthrown. The receiver didn't even know it was coming to him. Another one, you had Juwan Jennings going one-on-one against Danielle Hunter. Of course, Mac Jones got pressured. I mean, like, some of these protection calls were just weird. And I think the Texans did a great job. This was much more about the Texans than it was about Mac Jones. Because the Texans, with no offensive line, they did a great job in this game. They could run the ball better than they really ever have. And incredibly, they ran like over 30 times, close to 40 times at like 4.1 yards a carry. Noel, Hutchinson, Berrios, Marks, they all had great plays, great big-time plays in this one. Marks was a check down pass. It was the longest gain the Texans have had all season. C.J. Stroud was great, operating at a very high level against a banged-up Niners defense, but he did his job. Again, this is, you're doing your job. You're getting the throws out. You're making the big plays happen. And really, the 49ers the defense couldn't get off the field. I mean, no pass rush. Offensive line was getting cooked. The interior of the offensive line, you were down your starting center. The backup center, Hennessy, was not great whatsoever. You have the 20th best pass-blocking offensive line in the NFL. I mean, really, this offensive line wasn't great. The position players weren't great. Trent Williams is obviously your best, but McKivitz isn't that great in pass blocking. The interior of the offensive line is like bottom 5, bottom 3 in pass blocking at their individual positions. I just think that this is a team that's too banged up, and this is what we have to expect, though. This is what every single year, essentially, the 49ers and 49ers fans have to deal with. You have to deal with having half your team banged up on IR or missing several games. Just because that's kind of what Kyle Shanahan's offense has been. You have to get banged up. You're going to get banged up. You're going to get hurt. Mac Jones played all right. That's real. I mean, he didn't play badly. Because, again, it's context. You look at it, 193 passing yards, and he had an interception. That was a bad interception. He had 2 great touchdowns, in my opinion. The 49ers the Texans just did an absolutely great job hindering anything the Niners tried to do. They tried running the ball with CMC. Absolute cataclysmic failure, and then they just ultimately stopped running the ball because it didn't work. CMC, bring it up real quick. He had 8 carries for 25 yards. Not great. Mac Jones had 2 carries for 23 yards, 11.5 yards a carry. Meanwhile, CMC 3.1 yards a carry. They tried to do a couple checkdowns, didn't work. Also, Kendrick Bourne had a drop. I mean, a couple of these guys had big-time drops. There was one by Juwan Jennings on a gorgeous throw by Mac Jones. Dropped it. There was one that could have been a miscommunication, although I think it was just a bad route by Jennings. Dropped it, or rather couldn't locate it exactly right. There were some big-time drops in this game, and Mac Jones had a couple really big-time throws that weren't completed. So, again, who do you put blame on? I really put this game more so on the Texans. They just completely outplayed the Niners. I think DeMeco Ryans did a great job at scheming against what the Niners were trying to do, although it is relatively obvious. I just wish, the Niners did a better job at counteracting it, and especially on third down, getting the defense off the damn field. They just couldn't do it. Penalties early on were killers. He's throwing on 1st and 10, then all of a sudden you're back at 1st and 15. I mean, what are you expecting? It's an already banged up offensive line with banged up weapons, with an entire banged up team. You're on your backup quarterback. I mean, and here's my question to everyone out there who's ripping on Mac Jones. Could Brock Purdy, who already isn't that great under pressure, Mac Jones is actually the better quarterback under pressure this year, has the same amount of touchdowns, fewer interceptions, same completion percentage, more yards. Could Brock Purdy do the same thing or better than Mac Jones does? Because if the answer is no, he'll do about the same, maybe even worse. Again, this year, not career, because I'm still taking Brock Purdy over Mac Jones, but this particular season. If Brock Purdy could do the same thing or worse, potentially, based on this season, he has been the worst quarterback, then you can't criticize Mac for being a terrible quarterback because basically what you just admitted, where it's ultimately, the quarterback that we're spending $53 million on, he could do the exact same thing as a quarterback who's barely making any money. I'm not putting this on Mac Jones. I'm not being a homer. I'm not being, to me, I looked at this game and I thought the Texans are just completely outplaying them. There's nothing anybody could do. The defense can't stop them. The 49ers have no running game. They have no real great throwing game. They're pressuring Mac Jones. It was the 4th highest rate in week 8. It was just a completely, they got outclassed, outplayed completely by the Houston Texans. So this one, you crumple it up, you throw it away, and we had a bad game. Let's move on. And let's actually move on to the next topic here, which is the Minnesota Vikings. Because Carson Wentz is out for the year, he obliterated his shoulder. I mean, you have a torn labrum, was dislocated also. I mean, it was a pretty horrific injury, and supposedly he's been dealing with this for the last 2.5 games. So I respect it completely, 2.5 weeks. So, again, full respect. But now this falls on J.J. McCarthy being the starter. And I think anybody who thinks that J.J. McCarthy is going to save them or redeem the season or try to have them compete in the NFC West or NFC North, no. I do not think that that's even going to remotely happen. I think that this team is going to struggle. And especially the first game being against the Detroit Lions off a bye. Yeah, I don't like this for the Minnesota Vikings because in college, right, because we like to gauge quarterbacks in college, Bo Nix with Oregon did really well. He had several years in college, had the highest completion percentage in college, well over 77%. He was a very effective playmaker in college. Well, now what is he in the NFL? A very effective playmaker in the NFL. J.J. McCarthy, 155 passing yards a game. He had 49 touchdowns, 11 picks, so be it. A 79% completion percentage, rounded up at, 67.9% completion percentage, rounded up to 68%. Pass attempts per game, this is the big one, 17.8 per game. Michigan never relied on him really that heavily because it was ground and pound in defense. That was Jim Harbaugh's whole thing. I don't think that the Minnesota Vikings, if they can't run the ball whatsoever, I'm talking about like having under 2.9 yards a carry, this offense is going to do absolutely nothing. J.J. McCarthy, so far, I understand it's his first year starting, but he had one good quarter through his first 2 weeks. 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. And by the way, all those touchdowns came in that fourth quarter. So the other, 7, 8 quarters, however long he played was it? I think 7 other quarters. He did nothing. So he was also sacked 6 times in the Atlanta loss. The offensive line, think about this. Darisaw has knee issues. Donovan Jackson has wrist surgery. Ryan Kelly is on IR with 2 concussions. Brian O'Neill has a knee injury. The only offensive lineman that's really been there is Will Fries. He's played every single game, but he hasn't really done much. The offense is 26th in rushing yards per game. They allow 4 sacks a game. The offensive line is not great. The running game, I mean, we're seeing Jordan Mason be the starting running back for the last few weeks. With Aaron Jones on IR, he came back when, 5 carries for 15 yards. Really, really ineffective. And this was one of the highest spending off seasons in the NFL, the Minnesota Vikings. The defense hasn't been great, but I think that's ultimately because the offense is so bad or so ineffective. You have to throw the defense back out there so the defense gets cooked easier. The offensive line can't protect. The interior of the offensive line is terrible. The run defense is really not good whatsoever. They give up, the running defense is allowing over 130 yards per game, and they have, 2 or 3 200 rush yards allowed games. So I think ultimately, will J.J. McCarthy be the reason they lose? Some games, sure, but I think that this is just a poorly run team. Short yardage situations, they have the lowest success rate this season and also since 2022. They are not good in short yardage whatsoever. They are not effective in the red zone. They're not great on third down. Their defense also isn't that great anymore. I mean, they were great through the first, 10 or so weeks last year with Brian Flores when they were dominating with Sam Darnold, and that's another thing. But the defense isn't really good. And we have to take a look at last year. If you had to, in retrospect, with what we know now, if you were Kevin O'Connell and you saw what Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones are doing now, and you say, well, I have J.J. McCarthy or Carson Wentz, depending on, whoever Kevin O'Connell, prefers. But yeah, if you had the option between Carson Wentz, J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold, or Daniel Jones, let's just say I think J.J. McCarthy would be last on that list. Really. I think really Daniel Jones might be first, although with the offensive line issues, maybe you'll want to put Sam Darnold out there. But I think ultimately, you would definitely not have J.J. McCarthy at the very top of that list, but he has to be the future. You drafted him very high in his draft class, so he has to be the guy of the future, as, at least soon. Short yardage situations suck. Now, there is hope out there. I'm not going to go completely bash him because in the history of Kevin O'Connell's career, he's done pretty well coming off of a major loss. So think about this. Of the 8 times where they did play a game the following week, they've gone 6-2 after embarrassing losses. So I'm not saying they're going out and going to beat the Detroit Lions, but there is hope that this season is not completely over. I just think that if you have to put all of the weight onto J.J. McCarthy, he will fail because he's never been relied upon in his entire football career. He played at Michigan. Heavy defense, good running game, effective offensive line. Again, he averaged under 18 attempts per game on average. Now you're going to put him up into the NFL against a legitimate defense like the Detroit Lions, and all of a sudden he's going to throw 35 times and complete 30 of them and have like a 350-yard game? No. My guess is this Detroit Lions defense is going to do something very, very big. I mean, they're getting guys back from injury. They're getting healthier. Jared Goff in this offense is improving, as the weeks go on with the new OC. I mean, think about it. They're just coming off a big-time bounce-back win against Tampa Bay and coming off a bye week. Dan Campbell, what is he? He's extra time to rest. The Minnesota Vikings are now just getting J.J. McCarthy equipped to come back after injury. I mean, this is it's really unfortunate, this timeline, because you're having J.J. McCarthy come back from injury, and you kind of have to have him back. Was he maybe soft benched for Carson Wentz? Maybe. But Carson Wentz just went through like 2 games of being in excruciating pain, so much so he needs, season-ending surgery, excuse me. So I think ultimately this is a really bad spot for the Vikings to be in. A divisional opponent, which is the Detroit Lions, who are explosive on several facets of their game. Kicking-wise, they have one of the best kickers in the NFL. Offensive line is one of the top of the NFL. You have a dynamic 1-2 punch combo of Montgomery and Gibbs, but now Gibbs is kind of being the main back now. Think about the receivers: Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tesla, who should be involved a little bit more with the big-time plays. Defensively, they're always improving. They're also getting healthier as well. And you're going up against the Vikings, who are bad against the run, who are a bad running team, who are not great against passing wise, just because of the quarterbacks that they've had. Going against a defense that's improving as the weeks go on, and also have a really, really good pass rush as well against an offensive line that can't block the Minnesota Vikings. It's a really bad spot, but it's inevitable. So I think ultimately, what is Kevin O'Connell going to do in this upcoming week? They're 8.5-point favorites. Now I saw the number jump to 9.5. And I was like, I'm not betting that. I got my 8.5 bet in. I mean, the Harvey Hot End is basically done as of today. I put in a bunch of bets today. I'm hoping the point spreads don't move that much, but I think that this is a really good week for bets. A really, really good week. I feel very confident in a number of my picks, which you'll see obviously on Friday. But it's a really, really bad spot. I feel bad for McCarthy because he's being put in an almost unwinnable situation. Now, is there a chance they can win? Yes. But just based on how he's played, he's had one good quarter. One singular good quarter. And that's it. So what's he going to do? My guess is if you're asking him to be the savior of your team, he's not going to do that much. So we'll see. All right, final topic of today's show. Let's talk about Myles Garrett because, it was a rough game for the Cleveland Browns. It's been a rough season for the Cleveland Browns, but they've always had rough seasons, it seems. Myles Garrett was seen banging his helmet and being very, very frustrated after being taken out of the game when the Patriots were just running down the clock after they were up by, so much at the very end of that game. He spoke about that and really spoke about his mentality in the post-game press conference. So take a listen to what he had to say.
Frustrated. I want to win. I don't care how much time is on the clock. They got their starters in. There's a chance we can win. I want to be a part of that. I don't care how dire the situation looks. I'm going to try to make something happen. So I hate coming out of the situation. I hate, that kind of inevitability and not being able to do anything about it because I want to win. I'll do anything. I would throw the whole performance away for a win.
If that was the case, you shouldn't have signed a $40 million deal to stay with the Cleveland Browns. $40 million per year, I should say, to stay with the Cleveland Browns. 4 years, $160 million to remain on a team that you just demanded a trade for and really wasn't going to do anything for. I really have little to no sympathy for Myles Garrett because, again, this was a decision he made. He could have held out. He could have gotten traded. Instead, he stayed, then signed a 4-year, $160 million deal to remain with the Cleveland Browns, who, in this millennia, in this century, Cleveland is the losingest franchise. They have basically an entire season ahead of every other franchise in losses. They have 16 more losses than the next highest team, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 31st in winning percentage since 2000. Myles Garrett made that decision. So I have little to no sympathy for Myles Garrett. He had a great game. 5 sacks. He doubled his sacks in one game. First of all, Will Campbell struggled against Myles Garrett. They singled him a lot, which I thought was interesting. But then again, the Patriots just did what the Patriots seem to do this season. Drake May played at a very, very high level. Again, what have I been saying since basically the draft? Travion Henderson, get him the damn football. Who is the most effective running back in the game? Travion Henderson. Now, they tried with, Stevenson. He was very ineffective, especially earlier on in the game. And really, Travion Henderson was the big one, having 7.5 yards per carry in this one. He did have a fumble. But it seems like all Patriots running backs have fumbles. So I'll give him a pass for this one. If he turns into Gibson, who's on, unfortunately, his season's done. But also Stevenson, if he turns into Stevenson with his fumble, then I'll criticize him. But he's allowed one pass for this season so far. But, when you have 75 yards and 10 carries, you have a little bit of leeway there. And also, the Patriots just ran it 35 times at a very high 5.1 yards a carry. So, again, I thought the Browns defense was supposed to be this, the Patriots are playing against the toughest defense they've faced this year. They blew out the Cleveland Browns. Blew them out. They did exactly what I thought they would. They had Dylan Gabriel throw the football. They played into their strength of run defense. 16 carries, 68 yards, 4.3 yards a carry. You forced Dylan Gabriel to throw it 35 times. What happened? 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a safety. I mean, that's exactly what the Patriots should have done, and that's exactly what they did. Meanwhile, the Patriots played very effective football. Again, Drake May is absolutely insane this season. He deserves more MVP votes. He deserves, shorter odds. If he's not in the top 3, he deserves to be because he's been absolutely incredible this year. They're the second highest team in point differential, or third highest team, in point differential this year. I mean, think about this. He now has the most games of 200-plus passing yards, 135-plus passer rating, and 2 passing touchdowns in a single season in team history with 5. He passed that 2007 Tom Brady season. I mean, this offense has been incredible, and I think it boils down to a couple things. But the main piece of it is the fact that Josh McDaniels is the offensive coordinator. It's not a defensive coordinator. It's not a special teams coach. It's not Alex Van Pelt. No, it's Josh McDaniels, who made Mac Jones into a Pro Bowler, who through about 14, 15 weeks, Mac Jones was the leader in Offensive Rookie of the Year before Jamar Chase had like that 200-yard game late in the year. I mean, by the way, that is now tied for the second most in a single season in NFL history. So it breaks Patriots history. It's very close to passing NFL history. The Patriots were absolutely insane. So, again, we could be like, oh, Myles Garrett, 5 sacks. It's unfortunate. Yeah. I want to be part of success. Then you shouldn't have re-signed with the Cleveland Browns. And I also hear, there's that radio host for Cleveland saying, put Shedeur Sanders in. The Browns have the worst offensive line in the NFL. And it's really not that close. If you look at PFF, like 4 of their tackles are the worst. They're like 5 of the last 6 guys in offensive tackle grades. So what is Shedeur gonna really do besides be like, okay, we have Shedeur Sanders out there, the big name brand. He's finally out there, huh? You think that the Browns team would win more games if Shedeur was out there? Respectfully, I don't think so. And honestly, I think it's good. It's really good that they don't have him out there. Because he might get hurt. Now, supposedly, we see him randomly pop up on the injury report now and then. But ultimately, no. So let's go through some of the losses. You think they're going to beat Joe Burrow and the Bengals? I don't. You think they're going to beat the Baltimore Ravens? Hell no. Joe Flacco went out and beat the Green Bay Packers. Is Shedeur going to beat the Packers with Micah Parsons? Maybe not. The Lions. Will Shedeur beat the Lions? No. The Minnesota Vikings. Close game. Dylan Gabriel, that was his first start. I thought he played very conservative. There was an opportunity for Shedeur to win there, so let's put a pin in that. Maybe. Will they beat the Steelers? No. TJ Watt? Yeah, not going to happen. What about the Miami Dolphins? That was a very heavily defensive game. Non-defensive game, I should say, for the Miami Dolphins, who didn't do anything right. And also Tua turned the ball over, had another appearance with 3 interceptions in that game. So it was a rough day for Tua. And then against the Patriots, where you lose 32-13. I mean, would they have more or less than 2 wins right now? I don't think it's more. Could it be just 2 wins? Sure. I don't think there'll be much of a difference. So, and supposedly there's a report out there saying that Shedeur is going to start. Will start the last 4 games of the year, which is the Bears, Bills, Steelers, Bengals. The Bengals with Joe Burrow back, barring any setback there. So think about it. The Bears defense, besides the Ravens game, they were on a very hot streak up until that game. So who knows what they'll look like at the very end. The Buffalo Bills, will they figure out their defense late in the year? Maybe. The Pittsburgh Steelers with TJ Watt, now normally they hit the wall there. So who knows? Maybe the Steelers defense is really bad then. And then the Bengals, they've been playing better. Now against the Jets, they were non-existent. But they've been playing all right. Not great, still really bad, but better than they used to be. I don't think it'd be much different. I mean, really, maybe 2-2, and that's if you get lucky against the Bears and the Bengals. But against Joe Burrow. So, we'll see. But no, I think ultimately, again, we could say, I feel bad for Myles Garrett. 5 sacks, most in Browns history. And then he goes out and says, well, first of all, I respect the accountability. And he's trying to figure out answers. I respect that. But here's the reality of the situation. You play for the losingest franchise this century. They have an entire season's worth of losses ahead of the next highest team, 31st, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the worst franchise this century. So maybe don't sign a $40 million a year contract with the worst team this century. And then you'll probably win more games. And you'd probably be on a team that desperately needs a pass rusher, which, if you look at it, think about it. Eagles, Patriots, Cowboys maybe. Just think about anyone who needs a pass rusher. Commanders. All teams that are winning more games than you currently. And the Patriots, they're right now number 1 seed in the AFC East and the number 2 seed in the entirety of the AFC. Who, if the Colts somehow slip up, or, basically, if the Colts lose to the Chiefs and the Patriots somehow win out because they have an incredibly easy schedule, if both teams win out minus the Colts-Chiefs game, I'll need to look at how the tiebreakers break down, but the Patriots have a shot at being the number 1 seed in the AFC. So, and that's actually what I have a bet on. Because I'm fully bought into the Patriots, but this is a bad. The second thing about this, Drake May got pressured a bunch in this game, got sacked. Myles Garrett had 5 sacks. Think if a player has 5 sacks and 7 total pressures, you would think that this is a low-scoring, nip-and-tuck game. No, they got blown out. Because the Browns, they're a horribly run franchise. They don't have... by the way, this is also a top-tier defense as well in passing-wise. And the Patriots just absolutely executed at an incredibly high level. So, the offensive line is terrible. They don't have tremendous weapons, offensively. Their quarterback's not great. They don't really have a great quarterback in the room anyway. I like Dylan Sampson and I like Judkins. Are they, going to scare me? Depending on who I am, maybe, but ultimately, probably not. And really, if you think about it, you're going to be asking coaches and stuff like that on how to figure it out. I got one. It's your offense. It can't do anything. So it puts the defense back out there, which it's going to tire out very easily. So for me, it's the offense is not great. You can't really fix it. Kevin Stefanski's on a hot seat. I don't know exactly what he's doing. Dylan Gabriel apparently is his guy. So he's probably going to go down with the ship of Dylan Gabriel. Clearly, Jimmy Haslam wanted them to pick Shedeur Sanders, which they obviously did. I think ultimately, it's a wrap for the Browns this season as it is, halfway through most years. But I have, unfortunately, I have no sympathy. You're a tremendous player. First ballot Hall of Famer, the best pass rusher, really since you entered the league. Sure. But you decided to stay with a losing organization. Now, I can respect that, but also say it's a terrible idea if your goal is to win games. First of all, your obvious goal is win Super Bowls. Now we've demoted the goal to just winning games. That's the bar we've set. And if the bar you set is winning games, it tells you you're not on a good team. And in the reality of this situation, you're not part of a good franchise. And I'll reiterate it again, the worst franchise since 2000. They have four winning seasons this century and one singular top 10 scoring offense. Or it might be number one in total yards. I think they have 2 top 10 scoring. Yeah, one top 10 total offense and then 2 top 10 scoring offenses this century. I mean, that's the franchise you stuck around with. You could have stayed. You could have stayed out of it and just, held out and figured it out. You decided to stay. So that is just, you made a bad choice if your goal is to win Super Bowls, and especially now we've demoted the goal to winning games. It's unfortunate. All right, that wraps it up for today's show. What we do, 5 topics? 5 topics. We're down to just about an hour. So I thank you so much for the constant support that we've done, or that you've given us here on the Harvey Hour. We're coming to 4 years of doing the show, which is absolutely incredible. Halloween. We're going to be back here on Friday. Halloween for some spooky picks. But yeah, for the time being, and also, do we have another breaking news? Kyle Duggar to the Steelers. Ooh, what a pick. What a trade. Wow. A 7th round pick? A Kyle Duggar and a 7th round pick for a 6th round pick. Patriots get a 6th. Wow. I don't quite understand that. Getting the low tier picks. Yeah, and Adam Schefter just posted this. They just signed Kyle Duggar to a 4-year, $58 million deal last year. Mike Vrabel clearly didn't agree with that and told Elliott Wolf to go screw himself. We have no use for him. And this is after they let Jabril Peppers go at the beginning of this year. Which, by the way, I still think that's a mistake. Great locker room guy, one of the best run defenders last year. I don't fully understand that, but hey, they're making moves. I mean, hopefully they're going to use some of these picks to, get a big-time playmaker. I don't know. We'll see. All right, that wraps it up, unless there's some other breaking news in the next 2 seconds where I wrap up the show here. But, yeah, thank you so much for the constant support, as always. It's been a pleasure doing the show with you every single episode. This is the 90th episode of I believe, Season 5 of the show. Every 100 episodes is a new season, so I thank you for the constant support. We'll be back. My dad will be back for Friday's show. We'll make our Week 9 picks midway through the year. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, my name's Nathan Harvey. Again, I thank you for the constant support. I will see you, along with my dad. We will see you Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. Night, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.